Hi, my name is Samson Steve and my company is called Maximal Estates. Today we're going to be talking about how we can get you 10 listing appointments every month. But before we do that, let me explain why you need to watch this video. I have done calls with hundreds of agents at this point, and the calls tend to go a little long because there's a lot of Q&A. But to save us both time, I have taken around 80% of the standard telephonic conversation and have condensed it down to a 10-minute video. My company has clients ranging from people with 2 years of experience who have sold around 30 homes in total, to clients who have sold real estate worth over $1 billion. So we're basically looking for clientele with ambition to dominate the market and to emerge as a top producer. It doesn't matter if you aren't there yet, we are looking for someone who wants to get there and has the motivation to do so. The way that we generate business for you is through cold calling and a just sold campaign, calling neighborhoods around homes that have just been sold. This isn't just restricted to properties that your company has recently sold, but is inclusive of homes sold by anyone. This is a proven method of generating listing appointments, and it has been around since the invention of the telephone. Moving on, it is important to discuss the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule denotes that 80% of what you do only produces 20% of your results, while 20% of what you do produces 80% of your results. In order to better understand this, you can look at this rule and its application as a graph. By the time you get to 20% of your effort, the line is already starting to flatline. So what it really comes down to is the top 1% or top 5% of what you could be doing that needs to have a tremendous impact on your business. For me, that top 1 to 5% is getting in front of pre-qualified people in their home and making your listing presentation. That is the single most important activity that you need to focus on doing as a realtor. Everything else that leads up to that is where my company comes in. Our focus is on that part of the job that it takes to get somebody up to the point where they are willing to interview you for the job of listing their home. In order to work with us, you must have a proven track record, because if we apply our 80-20 rule to our own company, it doesn't make sense for us to work with clients who are unable to efficiently close leads. So when we make a call, it will be an interview of sorts, in which I will be looking to see if you seem like a person who might be able to close the leads we send your way. This is important for us because we only make money if you make money, as we charge a marketing fee at the close of a transaction, which is roughly 25 to 33% of your commission after the property has been sold. In the past, there have been instances where I have worked with several people who couldn't close. For example, we once gave someone 55 appointments. This guy had impressed me so much over the phone that I never actually looked to see what his conversion rate was, and kept sending him business. It eventually came to my knowledge that he only had one listing for sale. We lost a tremendous amount of money on him. Long story short, we're not working with him anymore. He was a great guy, but he couldn't close, so it was only best for the business to let him go. Let me get into a little bit more detail about how our program works. I'll give you an example on a $325,000 home. The first thing we do is charge a $3,000 deposit up front. The reason for this is that I'm very data driven. I have tested working with clients where they pay nothing up front, and I have tested working with people where they have paid the deposit. And I can tell you from testing and having the requisite data, people who don't pay the deposit, 100% of them have been unable to meet the minimum threshold to continue working with us. 100% of them. 100% of them lost money, or we lost money on them. And so what we figured out is that when you pay money, you also pay attention. And if you're willing to invest $3,000, which is 1/3 of your commission on a $325,000 home, then we know that you're going to pay attention to the leads that we send your way. This way, we know that you are serious about your business and are looking to grow your business to the next level and become a top producer or maintain your status as one of the top producers within your city. We guarantee you a minimum of 10 appointments a month. However, if you convert none of them, we probably won't continue to work with you. We figured out that a minimum of 10 appointments a month is the threshold that we have set for ourselves. That's our number. After sending you these appointments, we are going to test and see what your conversion rate is. You may sound great during the interview based on which we may decide to work with you, but when the rubber meets the road, everything will primarily depend on your conversion rate. When you sign a listing, we don't usually charge anything. That said, if you have the cash flow and you're willing to invest a little bit more, we offer a discount of up to 40%. However, to avail this, you will need to pay at the time of the listing instead of the closing. This is undoubtedly a massive discount, but keep in mind that sometimes it takes up to 6 months to sell your first home, and it might be so that you end up having 10 listings before your first sale is even made. So the fee could start to add up, and you may end up owing a lot more than you can afford initially. If you are in an area where we can generate a lot of activity, and you manage to establish a great conversion rate and decide to pay at the time of listing, the total amount can add up. However, you can save a tremendous amount of money on the back end. So if you have the cash flow, I would recommend it. But for most people, they want to stick with their standard program, so let's just jump to that. 0 at the time of the listing on the closing of a $325,000 home, the closing fee will be $2,375. But our deposit is a true deposit. It will come back to you. The way our refund works is that there is a $500 discount on our closing fee for your first 6 transactions. 6 times 500 is $3,000. So on the transaction, instead of charging you $2,375, we deduct the $500 and the closing fee on the home is $1,875. This is an exclusive program where we are not like Zillow, like we are selling by zip code or trying to get people to compete with any zip code. We are very different from that. Our focus is to find somebody with a great closing rate. If you have that, we don't want to work with anybody else near you. We want to send you as much business as possible, and we are really hoping you grow to become the largest firm in your area. As part of that goal, you are going to be working with us. Our expectation is that you're willing to drive at least 35 to 45 minutes. In a city like Las Vegas, if you are in the center, you can get to anywhere on the MLS within 30 minutes. We operate like a startup, and what I mean by that is that we pay a lot of attention to the build, measure, learn cycle feedback loop. We are very data-driven. We look at numbers and focus on how we can improve them by even 1, 5, or 10%. So a little bit more about us. We started in the REO outsourcing business about 7 years ago, and it was because of that business that most of our clients were selling 100 homes per year. However, over time, their numbers started to decline. We had a guy who went from 160 to 120 within a year. The writing was on the wall, as clear as it could be. These numbers would continue to drop. That's when our clients reached out to us and said, "Hey, what can you do to generate more business for us?" After great thought and deliberation, we decided that cold calling for listing appointments is what we were going to shift our focus to. We started working on that in November of 2014, and we have been refining our systems ever since. It took us about 9 months to get the bulk of the system going the way we want it to go. Our top priority has been to continue growing and to keep refining our techniques and know-how. That said, we are not magicians. We cannot do magic tricks. If the city that you are in is so hot that everything sells and there are no expirees, mostly along the West Coast that is the case, it's going to be very hard for us to generate a high amount of activity. However, if you are in a city like Miami where there are around 1,200 expirees every month, we are going to be able to send a lot of appointments your way. In the cities where there just really isn't a lot, we have to rely on lower quality leads, which are just sold leads. Think about this for a second. If you're calling an expired lead, you know the owner wants to sell their house. But if you're calling a random homeowner in a just sold area, what is the likelihood that that random owner is ready, willing, and able to sell their house? It is not very high. You can make a lot of those calls to generate appointments, but it's a lot more time, a lot more effort, a lot more activity than it is to get somebody like an expired or a for sale by owner, who is much more motivated to sell their home. So, in programming, there is a concept called garbage in, garbage out. And if we can't get leads in your area, we can't make the calls to get the appointments. So, we need to know that your area is good and that there's a lot of activity, as a result of which there's a lot of people for us to call. In the end, this business is just a numbers game. We get our data from a company called LandVoice. I tested LandVoice versus RedX versus Vulcan, as those are the 3 big data providers. LandVoice was clearly the best, literally twice as good as RedX at the same price, and I mean by usable data. RedX gives a whole bunch of numbers, but a sizable chunk of them, roughly 25%, are not even usable. They have 0 connection to property. LandVoice, on the other hand, gives more phone numbers and is of better quality. I had a lot of clients using RedX, and after I did this test, I figured out LandVoice was so much better. I contacted them, saying that I wanted all my clients to switch to LandVoice, so what can you do for me? I set up an affiliate relationship with them. They offer you either half of the first month, or you can go with $200 annually. I did try to get them to sell me the bulk and give me the whole country, but they wouldn't. Because the way that they have their contracts with the data providers is that they must have your information to get the data in the first place. Since they would not sell the whole country to me, it must go through you. They also offer a pro plan which offers 50% more numbers to call, and I highly recommend it. Again, if you think back to the last slide, the more numbers we can call, the more appointments we can set, and the more money that we are going to make together, so I encourage you to go after this program. Once again, my name is Samson Steve and my company is Maximal Estates. This has been a short presentation on how we can get you up to 10 listing appointments every month. The next step for you is to get on a call so we can talk about you and your market and how we are going to generate those 10 appointments for you. Thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to your call.